Welcome to a special interview portion of Gol Bizan. I'm Samson Timajani. Omid Namazi has appeared on this program a couple of times, detailing his stints as an assistant for Carlos Queiroz for Iran's 2014 World Cup qualifying campaign, and as an assistant for the U.S. men's U20 team. Since then, he's bounced around in jobs with U.S. Soccer and a couple of Iranian teams, most notably a short spell at Zobahan. This week I sat down with Namazi inside a Houston Starbucks cafe where he's settling into his first MLS job, being new manager Tab Ramos' right-hand man at the Houston Dynamo. I ask him about his new move, as well as his controversial past with Queiroz and the current state of Team Melli. Coach Omid Namazi, I appreciate you for making time for me again.
No problem. It's my pleasure to talk to you and to your program. I know I've been on there before with some of your colleagues, but this is nice.
You've recently made the switch from the U.S. U20 team being the assistant for Coach Tab Ramos, and then now joining the Dynamo. What was your latest switch like? How did that come to be?
Yeah, so, Tab and I have been working together since 2014. When I first came back from Iran, while I was working with the national team there, I came back here and started working first with the women's national team. And then once Joe Ellis took over, she brought in her own assistant. So I switched over to being an assistant with the 20s under Tab. And then start of 2016, I also became the head coach of the U18 national team. So, whether it was the U20s or, head coaching the U18s, my relationship with Tab was very, very close because we were working together all the time. And I think through that, we talked about, hey, if there was ever an opportunity for us to get in the MLS, whether it's me going in as a coach or him becoming a head coach somewhere, that we would form a team. And it happened that Tab left U.S. Soccer just about a month ago and joined the Houston Dynamo, and he had already asked me if I wanted to join him, and I didn't hesitate saying yes.
So this was something that you guys talked about you would want to do together.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it wasn't, while you work somewhere, your total concentration is on the task at hand. But we had spoken about today, in the future, if there was an opportunity and we can form a team to coach in the MLS, that would have been one of our goals.
What do you think, both of you going into your first stint, heading an MLS program, what do you think would be the tools for success in your first time doing that?
Well, just making sure that, first of all, we have the core players that we need in order to play the style of play that we want to play. We feel that choosing Houston, when Tab was going through his interview process, I know he was asked about, he was asked from a few different teams to come in for an interview, and he picked Houston because of one reason. He felt that the team already had a good nucleus of players that, given, some changes here and there, and also, acquiring some players, that we could have a very competitive team. So we feel the nucleus is there, and hopefully in the next month or so, with a few more additions, we feel we can compete for a playoff spot and even further this next year.
You've been in many different positions just in this decade alone. Has your strategy or your overall tactics changed at all through the years?
Not really. Whether coaching, in Iran with Carlos Queiroz, and then afterwards women's national team and the youth national teams here in the U.S. Later on, I went to Zobahan in Iran. Your view of the game never changes. You have a certain way you think your team should play, and that never changes. Now, you go into situations where you don't have the tools to play a certain way that you want to play. So you need to adjust and be flexible. But again, nothing has changed as far as my view on the game. I like to play an attacking style. I know it sounds cliche, but with an emphasis on possession and good movement of the ball, and making sure that the team is spread out and occupying all spaces in order to be able to keep possession and create opportunities on goal.
Well, you were an assistant for Coach
Carlos Queiroz for the process during the 2014 World Cup qualification process. How did that work with you, as you say, being more attack-minded and him more defense first, establish the attack from there and become the number one Asian team out of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when Carlos first took over, he had a clear idea as to what it will take for Iran to be successful. And he felt like there was a lack of discipline. When I say lack of discipline, mainly in regards to defending and defending with numbers. And he thought that if he could create an environment where everybody believed in getting behind the ball and defending with all their might, that eventually, we will be able to win the game by a goal or be in the game to the end. So I thought in the years that he was there, 7 or 8 years, however long he was there, I thought he established that. He gave the team a good discipline. We always felt like we had a chance at the end of the game to win the game. And in 2014, prime example, for our last 3 qualifying games, we had to win every game. And his tactics were, we were going to defend, we were going to sit deep, and then we were going to counter. And, the goal against Korea that put us into the World Cup is a prime example of how he felt that Iran could be successful at that point. Now, as the team changed from 2014 to 15 and 16, and some younger players came through, I felt that he exploited the idea of playing more attacking, and he was changing the style from being completely defensive. And in the 2018 World Cup, it showed. We were able to compete, still defend very well against some of the top teams like Spain or Portugal. But then, we also had chances to score and possibly get out of our group. But it didn't happen. I felt that if the players were a little bit more clinical in front of the goal, that feat could have been achieved.
You say we, even though you were no longer on the staff, but you still rooted for them.
Of course, when you work for 4 years and you're in camps and you're daily working with someone, you're attached to that. I actually didn't leave on a good note with Carlos, but I always felt like I was part of that team. I was part of what we started there, and I always wish him good luck.
After you left Team Melli, you went on Iranian sports talk show and you gave feedback that was less than maybe rave reviews of Queiroz overall. You said he was probably a 6 out of 10. And as you said, that was after you left on kind of a bad note. Can you provide some insight on what exactly that bad note was?
Yeah, well, I mean, I left because, a slew of reasons. One, I felt like my relationship with Carlos throughout the 4 years, for 3.5 years, was a great relationship. It was a relationship where I felt, whatever he needed, whether it was on the technical side, whether it was his communication with the federation, I was the first one he would go to. There came a time where that, for whatever reason, that relationship was no longer as close or as tight, and I felt that. At the same time, I had not been paid by the federation for 6 months. And then an offer came from U.S. Soccer to get back here and work with the women's national team. And this is where I always lived, for the majority of my life. My kids were here. I felt that this was a good opportunity to come back, live at home, actually in New Jersey, close to my kids, work with the federation, and sort of restart my career here in the U.S. So when I left, I had a long talk with Carlos, and he felt very betrayed by me leaving at the time. And I'm sure people know, or that after I left, he made some very derogatory comments about me, and I felt that was very unfair. So my whole view of him sort of changed. I was a little sour about what he had said and how things had unfolded. When I look back, I can't say, it would be unfair to say he was a 6 out of 10 coach. I think Carlos Queiroz is one of the top coaches in the world. Yes, he's a defensive-minded coach, but I feel like He's very shrewd. He's very organized. He's very thoughtful. Probably one of the smartest guys I've ever come across. But he has his own style, and maybe not a lot of people like that style. But I would definitely change my grade on his coaching now looking back. At the time, I was rightfully so. I was bitter about the way it had ended and what he had said in the press about me. He's in Colombia doing good things, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Do you feel like the talent has been set up from the youth talent going to Europe and succeeding in Europe? Do you feel like those players in Iran have the formula to still be Asia's number one team?
I think the talent's there in Iran. There's no question about the talent being there. I don't think the talent is being developed the way it should be. There are a few reasons why, and I think a couple major reasons are, one is the infrastructure. We don't have proper facilities to develop players the right way. And I think also we lack in the coaching department. I think the coaching style or the coaching at the youth level in Iran is very old school, and they're not up to par with what's going on around the world. I feel we play a very old type of soccer. It shows in the league games where the games are very direct, very physical. Very few teams actually play good football, and I feel that's a byproduct of not producing or developing the right players.
As we all know, momentum of Iran has completely shifted downwards. Mark Wilmot started with a bang with humongous wins, 14-goal victory. He tied South Korea in his first road game in a friendly before the team's performance drastically dipped with a loss at Bahrain, a loss in Jordan against Iraq. Just from seeing and hearing about all that, what is your reaction to that sudden decline?
Yeah, it's surprising. However, I can tell you those games, whether you're playing Bahrain in Bahrain or you're playing Iraq on neutral soil, they're not easy games. I mean, I remember us with Queiroz, we lost to Lebanon, and Lebanon is much more inferior than the two teams we had just mentioned. But it happens, when conditions are the way they were in Lebanon. Like on that day, it was hot, it was humid, the field wasn't great to play on, it was very bumpy, and the style that they had chosen to play was very defensive and making sure that they really parked the bus in front of their net. It gave us a lot of problems when we lost the game, and I feel the same thing has happened in the last two games. This doesn't take away from the fact that maybe in his selection, in my opinion, Wilmot's made some errors as far as his lineup. But at the same time, I still think he's a quality coach. He's coached the Belgian national team. He's coached at the very high level. You can't give up on a guy who wants to sort of change the face of the national team and change the way they play in two games. In Iran, unfortunately, people are sensitive and very emotional, and there's a lot of stuff said about now we need to make a change. I don't think change is necessary at this point. I think there has to be some sort of understanding that Wilmot, if he's going to coach the team, he needs to be in Iran. He needs to be watching league games. And he needs to have a good understanding with everybody involved, especially the federation people. He needs to get paid on time. That's something that's always been a plague for the national team. And I feel if everything is in order, he can be successful. Going back to what I said about my opinion about his lineups, I feel like, he needs to look at all the players and put those players in the places where, or in spots where they can be successful. For example, the last two games, I felt that he felt obliged to play Taremi, Osmoon, Ansari Fag,
35-year-old Shojaei,
and Mohebi. Well, the last game, Shojai was sort of inserted in, but he still played Mohebi, played Taremi, and played Osmo. All three are center forwards. They're not, when you look at Taremi, he's not a winger. Or you look at Mohebi, I worked with him actually with the Olympic team for a short time. He's not really a winger. He's a typical number 9. So when you have these guys playing out of position, it doesn't create a good mix. I feel, Vahid Amiri could be used on the left wing. I feel, why not? If John Bosch is not playing, but he's still training every day at a very high level, he could be very useful. He could be our right wing. Osmoon can be our center forward, or Ansari Fad could be our center forward. And we truly miss a true number 10 on the team. So I feel like there's a little bit of tweaking that needs to be done, but at the same time, I feel like he needs to be given a chance to correct it, and I think they'll be successful.
Taking a step back, reflecting on your own coaching, how you have worked with players, your chemistry with your players, the fact that you've bounced around in different places, from the women's and then to men's, and then you returned to Iran briefly, had a stint with Zobahan, didn't work out. How do you get the trust of players that you're working with that you will be beneficial for them in the long run?
Well, let me just, I need to say something about my stint at Zobahan. I'm very proud of the work that I did at Zobahan. And why I say that is because if you go back and look at the games that we played, whether it was press or experts looking at the games, they all felt Zobahan was playing probably the best football in Iran at that time in the league. Unfortunately, we missed players who could finish for us up front, and we struggled in the scoring department. But as far as possession, pressing, completing passes, I felt, and the stats back it up. In fact, I tweeted out the stats at one point, but Zobahan was definitely playing some of the best football in the league at the time. We just weren't getting the results. But I felt, given the time and maybe being able to add a player or two in mid-season, we could have turned the season around just like they did. I had just brought in Arsalan Mutahari. He had trained with us for 3 weeks, but wasn't able to play because his ITC wasn't ready. You look at last year in the second half of the season, he scored all the 3-point goals for them. The goals that made them win games. So, again, very proud of my work. But, going back to your question, if you're honest with players, if you have a clear idea what you want to do, you put the players in the right place for them to succeed. You slowly gain their trust, and I felt I had the trust of the players even till last day that I left Zobahan. And the players enjoyed playing in the way we wanted to play. We wanted to play attacking. We wanted to press and get the ball back quickly, have the ball for the most part, and they enjoyed that. Unfortunately, again, there was a lot of misjudgment as far as referees go. The program 90 made a case of it that Zobahan had probably been on the wrong side of all these calls, the most out of every team in the league, and also us. There was a part that came back to us, and that was not being able to finish our scoring chances. But going back to stats, again, through my time in Zobahan in that part of the season, we created the most goal scoring chances in the league. We just didn't finish it, and that's why it didn't work out.
You think there will be a good buy-in from the players and attackers from Houston to kind of fit you and Coach Ramos's vision?
Yeah, well, this is Tap's project, and I'm very much in favor of what he wants to do. He wants to play, on the front foot. He wants to press very high, be very aggressive, regardless of where we play. And we have the players to do it. And at the same time, when we have the ball, he wants to be, conscious of keeping possession, but also very conscious of going forward with the ball. And that's the main ingredients of how we want to play.
Well, what about the overall fan culture in Houston in terms of the fan base? Because there's been a huge struggle for the Dynamo in that department. They've had a low amount of attendance recent years. Even when they did go to the playoffs, the attendance has been one of the lowest in the MLS consistently. How do you think your performances and overall off the field things like getting a better relationship with the fans? How do you envision stuff like that?
Well, for one, I think the selection of Tab as a head coach has created a lot of excitement in town. But that won't be enough. We need to get out in the community and really connect with the fans, and get to people and let them know that, hey, we're here. We're going to be a competitive team. But at the end of the day, people want to see winners. And our main goal has to be concentrating on the first team and maybe make sure that we have a winner on the field, a winning team on the field. So that's what we're working towards. I feel like if we win, we're competitive. We get into playoffs not only one year but consistently, and we contend for championships. I think those fans will come back. 10 years ago, when they were winning championships, they were selling out the stadium. So yeah, maybe some of the excitement has rubbed off or dwindled down, but I think with a winning team, things will start picking up again.
Do you think it might take one or two internationally known players for that?
Possibly. I mean, we are always looking at our options. We're not a big spending club.
Is that something you want to change?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, the club has a philosophy and how much they want to spend, and we have to work within those parameters. We have been able to go out and get a player like Darwin Quintero. Darwin Quintero is a player who's got a big name, especially amongst Mexican fans, having played in America for many years. So hopefully he'll bring some people to the stadium. And again, if there's an opportunity to go out and get a big name and it makes sense financially for our team, we'll definitely look at that option. But we feel like, again, the pieces are here and we can win with this team. And hopefully by winning, we'll bring people into the gates and create a lot of excitement.
You think there's some potential to reach out some of the Iranian-American community in Houston, like the businesses on this side of town? We're in the southwest part of Houston. A lot of Iranian-owned businesses, former Iran player and former LA Galaxy player, Arash Noamuz, he lives in Houston. He has a couple of restaurants. I know he has a nice sandwich and deli restaurant and bar in Bel Air, Texas. Yeah, you think you want to reach out to people like that?
Yeah, I have a great relationship with Arash. I've seen him. I've been to his restaurant already 3 times since I've been to Houston. So, yeah, that's one of the goals. Get out, let people in the Iranian community know that, the Houston Dynamo exists, and, hopefully by me being here, it creates a sort of a link to the team, and hopefully we can get some of those people out of the stadium. But yeah, that's definitely in the plans.
Are there any Iranian-American players that you ever keep in touch with? I know obviously Steven Beitashour would be the biggest one. Do you ever think about stuff like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Steven is a free agent now. His name has come up, so we certainly have him and his name on our radar. I do keep in touch from time to time from whether it's former players or current players. There's some former national team players that live here in America now. Hadi Aghili is living in New York, and I'm in touch with them from time to time. So you got to keep those relationships going. And if there are players that are Iranian Americans or Iranian players that are playing in the Iran League, if we feel like that they can help the Houston Dynamo, we certainly will look at them as possible options.
In your first year going into the situation, how much of a potential for success do you see with your roster and in the rest of the Western Conference competing?
If I'm to speak as to our situation and our team at this point right now, I would say we could be very competitive. I feel like we have a team that can definitely get into the playoffs. We are short, again, at this point, we're short of a good number 1 goalkeeper, but we're working hard at that and then trying to identify the goalkeeper we want for this team and the style of play that we want to play. If we land the right person, I feel like, if we don't make the playoffs, we've underperformed. And then, when you make the playoffs there, it's a one game. You look at Seattle this year, and they won on the road, and they on the road at LAFC, and they got to the championship, and they were able to win the championship. I feel we can be that team. We have good pieces on the team. We have good, very skillful players down the middle of the field, and I feel like we could play with anyone.
You feel like there's still a part of you that feels like you'd like to go to be in Iran and succeed there again?
It's very difficult to work in Iran. The environment, the culture does not foster someone like me to go there and be successful. You need people who are familiar with, what we call hashiyeh in Iran, which is all the surrounding things besides the technical stuff. And really, my work is on the pitch. I don't need to worry about, whether one of the players is talking to the press or, there's this going on. I think that falls on the shoulder of the team manager or the general manager of the team. And, I would say, look, I can never say no, never. Because obviously I have part of me that's in Iran, and I would actually cherish an opportunity to go back, but it has to be the right opportunity. It has to be with a club that's committed to a long-term plan, not just 6 months, and if you don't get a couple of results, then everybody's up in arms, but a long-term plan where they want to develop a culture at a club. A culture of winning from their very young youth teams all the way to the first team. And that was my plan in Zoban. Unfortunately, the person that took me there didn't stand strong behind me because I felt like we could have made it happen. That was a good club with the right infrastructure that could have happened. But in the future, if there's an opportunity with the right person at helm as a GM or as a director, and he's committed and they are serious about the work they want to do, then I will definitely listen.
We say club, not national team.
Well, I mean, look, if a call came from a national team, whether it's the Olympic team or whether it's a senior national team, how can you say no? But again, very difficult. It depends on where I am, at that point with my career. My goal is to someday coach in the MLS, be a head coach in the MLS. This is the first step. I'm in the league now. I can experience the league and learn a lot more about the league, the players, and ways to be successful and have a winning team. And then we'll see. If the opportunity comes to become a head coach here, that's my first goal. And if the call comes from Iran and it's the right opportunity, I'll certainly listen to it.
Well, you're definitely one of the most prominent Iranian American figures in American soccer. Do you ever get asked, or do you ever think of any prospect of an Iran-USA friendly in the future?
Oh, I've thought about it all along. And when I was coaching the youth national teams, I always wanted to try to set up a game between the U18 national team and the Iranian U18s. It's just that with the political climate right now, it's almost impossible.
The federations didn't want to?
It wasn't that the federations didn't want to. I think the federations have spoken about it. It's just that I think let's give an example. If Iran was to come to the U.S., it would be very difficult to obtain visas for the players. It's just right now it would be very difficult to make that happen. But I think in the future, I would love to see that happen. I would love to see the U.S. play the U.S. play Iran in a friendly, and nothing will make me happier than that. Just because they both just like you. My heart's with both, and I get joy out of each team winning wherever they're competing.
All right, Coach. I thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Hey, this is Arash Markazi from ESPN, and you're listening to Gol Bezan, your one-stop shop for all your Iranian soccer news.